Welcome to another episode of Barbie Saturdays, and it's time to continue our dive through Barbie movies for the month of August with Barbie and a Mermaid Tale 2, which, oddly enough, is about on par with the first movie, which is a bit odd, I admit, because when it comes to sequels, they usually get worse really, really fast. This isn't always the case, because Equestria Girls 2 is vastly superior to the first movie, and I mean vastly superior. It's miles above it in terms of quality and enjoyment. When it comes to the Equestria Girls series, I would point straight to the second movie. I haven't watched the third or fourth movie yet, so I can't really say anything about them. I got them floating around my room somewhere, I'm sure. I got all kinds of things floating around my room. It's just figuring out where they're at, considering I've got piles of DVDs. Like literally just piles. But yeah, as for why this one manages to stay about on par, well, it doesn't really recycle a bunch of scenes from the first movie, trying to put a different spin on it. It tries to be, as different as possible. So we get, an introduction of a rival surfer in the form of Kylie, the challenger, for the title of Queen of the Waves, and we get relationship problems between, Merlia and her mom, Calissa. Because Calissa, wants her to be at the changing of the tide ceremony, which is coming up, which, will grant, or renew her mom's ability to spin Merlia, the life force of the sea. And she wants, Merlia to be there, because, it's an important event as far as, the mermaids and residents of Oceania are concerned. She's the crown princess, she should definitely be there. Merlia, is like, well, I got a surfing event at the same time, and I want to go to that, because surfing's important to me. So we got, family drama, but not between, Merlia and her aunt, but between Merlia and her mom. It's similar, but it's different enough because you can understand, scheduling conflicts and stuff, getting in the way and trying to figure out, what's more important. Because we all know, from the first minute, Merlia was not particularly invested, in her mermaid half, as much as she probably should be, as the crown princess, but apparently that trend is still continuing a year later on, where she likes the perks, but she doesn't want to, sacrifice anything on the human side because she prefers being human for the most part, apparently. Though I suppose when you spend over 15 years of your life, having legs, giving them up for a tail, and living in the ocean may not be the most appealing of options, even if you are a magical mermaid princess. So it does have, at least drama. It's similar but different enough that it's enjoyable. But of course, Eris has to get free at some point, because we gotta have, the main antagonist come back. You can't have a sequel and not bring Eris back, right? So she takes advantage of her rivalry with Kylie at surfing to trick her into stealing Merlia's magical necklace, which allows her to transform between being human and a mermaid. And then, gets Kylie to bring the necklace as a mermaid all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, where she's been trapped in a whirlpool for, the last year, to free herself and, try and make it to the changing of the tide ceremony so she can get the power to make Merlia and get rid of, her sister and everyone else that, would oppose her ruling over the ocean. I might have made it a bit confusing with the use of her there, but I was talking about Eris at that point. So, yeah, Eris comes back, and she has new powers. She can now make your worst nightmares come true, so if she hits you with this spell and your worst fear is being tiny, well, you're going to shrink down to the size of a small fish. And if she hits you again, you're still afraid of being tiny, well, you'll get even smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm not sure how far this can go. Maybe it'd stop at, the microscopic level or something. It's hard to say. I mean, eventually I assume you would be a single-cell organism, not really have enough brain power to really have a worst fear, but who knows. And of course, much like the first movie, Eris is ultimately defeated by being tricked into using her own spell against herself, which takes away all her powers forever. So you can't really have a third movie because you'd have to have a whole new villain brought in. And that would require a lot more thought and effort, right? We gotta have a villain that was in the wings, for the last two movies that we never talked about or set up. Yeah, I can understand why they never made a third Mermaid Tale movie. Though I also have to wonder, if Eris's worst fear is becoming an ordinary human, which is implied on the Barbie Wikipedia site. Why can she breathe underwater? I mean, I know Merlia can do that in her human form, but she's half mermaid. So I assume she has, certain, parts of her anatomy that were awakened when she came of age, like 15 or whatever, that compensate for the fact, she usually walks on land, breathes air with her lungs. So she must have like secret gills or something hidden somewhere. But I don't know what Eris's excuse would be, because she can still breathe underwater just fine. Maybe she just assumes humans can do that because Merlia can. I have no idea. So maybe it should be said she became half human, half mermaid. Instead of saying she became human was her worst fear. She's, now between worlds, much like her niece is. Like neither truly a mermaid nor a human, which could be really suck depending on your perspective, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, if you like the first movie, you'll probably enjoy this one as well. Though I admit they do have some plot holes slightly, because they'll have characters that have been affected by Eris's spell that seem to sometimes bypass the effects of it. Like, this one mermaid's turned into a coward, yet she'll still bravely fight against these giant monster fish at a later point. And one mermaid was cursed to be slow, and she can move at normal speed at certain times, if it's required by the plot. So, yeah, there's some inconsistencies with how Eris's powers work, apparently. Ugh. Oh, well. Until next time, then. See ya.